Well, the Assad family ruled Syria for over 50 years. It took less than 2 weeks for the regime to fall. On November the 27th of last year, Syrian rebels launched a major offensive in western Aleppo against Assad's forces. It was the first significant conflict between the two sides in years. 3 days later, the rebels seized Aleppo. It was the first time the fighters had set foot in the city since 2016, when they were forced out by the government forces. The fighters extended their offensive into Hama, giving them control of a strategic central city that never held before. By December the 6th, opposition forces had captured more of the southern region of Daraa, the birthplace of the uprising in 2011. In their lightning advance, the fighters took over the city of Homs, cutting off government forces from their coastal strongholds. In the early hours of December the 8th, they entered Damascus, facing very little resistance from the government forces. President Bashar al-Assad fled to Moscow. The leader of the main Syrian opposition armed group, and now the president, Ahmed al-Sharaa, declared victory from inside Umayyad Mosque. Let's go live now to Aleppo, where Asad Beg is there. Asad, so the battle for Aleppo was critical, wasn't it, to the fall of the Assad regime? Talk us through it in more detail.
Yes, it was critical. It was the most significant turning point since the start of the uprising. Ultimately, it reversed a military reality that had been in place for a decade. Now, we understand that that offensive was months in the planning. Not even the fighters taking part in it knew that it was going to happen. And ultimately, the regime forces were overstretched. They weren't able to reinforce Aleppo. The militias that were backing the regime, including the Iranian-backed ones, had been deployed elsewhere and again unable to reinforce the defensive lines in Aleppo. The rebels also targeted the supply routes, so again ammunition couldn't get into regime forces. But one of the major things was that the different rebel units had come under one military command. Now, people hadn't seen that in years, and they were also using drone reconnaissance, artillery fire, as well as ground forces. Now, when we talk about rebels, we're not talking about a ragtag number of people. These are organized fighters that were trained well. We just had special forces here that took part in the offensive, and they have night vision lenses. They're well equipped, and we've also just seen a military parade taking place where the administration is showing off its weapons, its soldiers, its fighters, and it was well organized, and ultimately it took Damascus by surprise and led to the fall of the Assad regime.
And Assad, as we've been saying, Aleppo was long the heart of the Syrian uprising. What is the mood there? The people that you've been speaking to, how do they feel about this year's commemorations, and how are they looking to the future?
Well, the mood is definitely joyous. We've just seen people celebrating, and some had soldiers carrying them on their shoulders to celebrate and thank them. But this city has sustained considerable damage and destruction. This is an ancient city. We're just standing in front of the citadel, but the old city, if I can get Fadi just pan the camera around to show you some of the destruction. It's estimated it will cost billions of dollars to reconstruct and rebuild parts of this city. It is the largest city, and it is a symbolic and significant city. Whoever controls Aleppo controls the major economic hub. But again, people are hopeful that there will be change, but also they want reconstruction. They want the city to be rebuilt because it has sustained considerable damage over that civil war and the battle for Aleppo. The city, up until 2016, was divided between the regime forces and the rebel forces. But as I've been speaking to people today, when I was talking about the destruction, one gentleman I was talking to, I said, look at the amount of destruction. Around him were destroyed buildings. I asked him, was it worth it? And he said, yes, it is worth it, because my children will now grow up in dignity in a free Syria. And that kind of sums up the mood here in Aleppo.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Asad Beg there for us in Aleppo.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.